All right. Just. Can't be too careful nowadays. Hey, what's up? Hello. Welcome back to my channel, and thanks for being here. For today's video, I want to do something a little bit different. I know, I just started this channel, and I am going off-brand for this, my 6th video. The boys in the marketing department are gonna have my head for this one, yeesh. For this video, I want to explore the sociological imagination and how it applies to this coronavirus pandemic that we are all experiencing together. See, I have this fancy degree from a real-life university, and it is a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, and that means I know everything. So this video is going to be a little bit more informational and a little bit less funny than most of my other videos, because as we can all agree, my other videos are freaking hilarious. Remember that time I waved a knife around and yelled that I was on Quaaludes? That was a funny joke, as well as a solid career move. But I think that this global event is a really good opportunity for us to look at the broader social impacts of noteworthy events like this one. And this video is going to give a really solid background to the points that I make in a lot of my other videos. So sort of think of this one as more of a video essay or a think piece, and then I'll be back to my normal style for the next one. And if this one is well received, then maybe I'll do some more serious-ish type content like this in the future. Let me know. So first I want to give a general introduction to the field of sociology and the sociological imagination, and then we'll break it down as to how it applies to what we're seeing in the news. Basically, this is going to be like one of the 100 million essays I wrote for my degree, except without any of the formatting requirements or academic integrity, because this is my YouTube channel and I do what I want. So here's a boilerplate definition of sociology as a discipline. Sociology is the study of societies, social relationships, social interactions, and cultures. Just like the name suggests, it's a social science that seeks to systematically understand how society works. So it's all about looking at things that happen and saying, what is this thing's relationship to society? Was this caused by or influenced by an observable social pattern? Will this have effects on society moving forward? So the sociological imagination then is also exactly what it sounds like. The term was coined by an American sociologist named C Wright Mills in 1959. It's basically looking at a small-scale event and zooming out to see what broader social patterns influence it. It's about taking an individual's experience and seeing how we can make sense of it when we look at the broader society. His concern was the relationship between private troubles and public issues. And really what the sociological imagination is all about is seeing how some people experience the world differently. So an example of this was in my last video. We looked at cannabis laws, prohibition, and over-policing. People of color experience higher rates of incarceration in cannabis-related crimes like possession. We also know that people of color historically have often been excluded from booming economic zones of major cities in a process called redlining. And those neighborhoods with lower economic conditions are often policed more. So when someone ends up being incarcerated for possession, often we can look at the available information and say that this person got put in jail for something that someone else did without a care in the world. And that the difference in their experience can come down to a difference in their level of privilege. And in this way, laws apply differently to different people with different social identities, as do certain social conventions. So when we see trends like higher incarceration rates for people of color, or lower salaries for women, or high rates of suicide for men, or an outbreak of AIDS in the LGBTQ community, we can come up to theories as to why that might be. And often these differences can be explained with different levels of privilege, or different means of socialization, or different social expectations, or different levels of access. And the point, obviously, is not to blame society for all of your issues, but it is a way to look at broader social systems that make things harder for people, and hold the people and systems in power to account. And this way we can problematize the crappy, useless parts of the social machine that make life worse for people overall. So you say, okay, I get it. The sociological imagination is blah, blah, blah. I'm so jealous of your degree and all your books and your receding hairline and your 28 followers. What does this got to do with the coronavirus? So what I want to do here is look at the coronavirus critically. The story isn't over yet by a long shot, but I want to take a look at what this pandemic tells us about the state of our global society and what lessons we're going to take away from it. 1. The racism. Okay, so the disease originated in China. It hit China hard, and that sucks, and my heart goes out, and I'm so happy to see that Wuhan province is finally starting to stabilize. But the response from North Americans and Europeans has been trash. And look, this channel isn't about rehashing bigotry. I'm sure you've seen plenty of it these last few weeks. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm putting up some screenshots here on the off chance that you don't, but I'm not going to take the time to walk you through a bunch of examples. You get it. I think this really shows how unequipped the general public is to handle bad news and to think critically about it. Mass immigration has been a thing for over a century now. Just because you perceive someone as having Asian features doesn't mean that they came directly from China and got a job as a barista and are licking every coffee cup that they're handing out. And I think that the tendency to show Asian people as the poster children for this disease shows a lack of tact and thoughtful publishing, seeing as how Italy and Spain have been going through it as well, and they're not receiving the same type of sensationalist coverage. It is a global pandemic. We're all in this together. We're all on the same team. And assigning blame to people based on race is not a valid way to solve social problems. Hot take, I know. Moving forward, I think we need to see some more discerning publishing standards so that news organizations aren't stoking racism in the face of a global crisis. 2, the ageism and ableism. So some people learned about the news of the virus and immediately went into everything is fine mode. And in my opinion, trying not to panic is a natural response. People often make apocalyptic statements when things like this happen, whether joking or not, and people want to mitigate stress. But some people took this way too far, and they claimed that the virus is nothing to worry about because it's mainly going to affect the old, the young, and the immunocompromised.
But going back to your earlier point about, people see something on TV and they automatically think. The early images were, somebody's sick, getting hauled out on a gurney. There's a guy in a spacesuit. If I get it, that's what's going to happen to me. That's not what's happening. Most people who have it have just mild symptoms.
Correct.
They're just sitting at home eating soup for 2 weeks.
A month ago, there's footage of me on television saying, shut up, everybody.
I hate to break it to you, but some people in the world are babies, old people, and immunocompromised people. Or if they're not, they have people in their lives who are. I have 4 nieces and nephews. The gender-neutral term is nibbling, under the age of 5. 2 of them are under a year old. I have people in my life who have chronic illnesses, and they're on meds that make them more susceptible to viruses. What do these people not get? If I got the virus, I would probably be fine. I would be sick for a while, and then I would get over it. But other people around me, whether I know them or not, are at risk for worse outcomes. And I would be so distraught if I thought that there was a chance that I infected a vulnerable person. Come to think of it, my niece gave me hand, foot, and mouth disease one time, so maybe I wouldn't feel that bad. People like this, I think, just never reach that level of thought. Give your head a shake. And I think discounting the lives and experiences of people who are very old, or people who are very young, or people who have certain medical conditions just shows an inability to think about caring for vulnerable people, or at least a profound level of carelessness and oversight. And the fact that these takes are widespread, I think, shows that this is an issue on a societal level. While we're on the topic of ableism, let's talk about working from home. These tweets really address the issue perfectly. I think often we think of working as physically being in the workplace, and often don't think about how we could be using technology to make things more accessible. Obviously, some jobs are physical and not all of them can be done remotely, but a lot of them can. I think given a few years from this pandemic, we could see this as a turning point, something that really opens people's eyes to the necessity of being open, at least, to work from home practices. People with disabilities deserve job opportunities, and we're missing out on amazing people and their efforts if we refuse to accommodate them. Number 3, the class struggle. Now, some of the biggest stories we're seeing come out of this COVID-19 pandemic are labor issues. People are being laid off, people are missing shifts, people are unable to take work off and are putting themselves at risk of contracting or spreading the virus. And obviously, there's some essential services that need to be run, and it's unrealistic to say that everyone should be at home during this time. It just can't work that way. So all of this gets complicated. Who gets to stay home? Who has to stay home? Who gets to go to work? Who has to miss work? And obviously, I don't have these answers. I'm a sociology grad, not an expert in economics or disease control or really anything, but if I may, I would like to take a moment to call out the capital-owning class, that is the millionaires and billionaires of the world, and say, why aren't you helping? See, Adam Smith, he's this theorist who lived in the 1700s, and he's widely regarded as the father of capitalism and the free market. He believed in something called the invisible hand, and that was basically a concept that meant that people acting in their own self-interest would actually lead to a net benefit for the greater good. So even though people were working for selfish reasons, their labor would produce a service to other people. And when people's production greatly exceeded their needs, the benefits would be felt by the society as a whole. So where is that in the coronavirus crisis that we are experiencing? A big chunk of news media wants us to feel sorry for billionaires who lost money in the stock market. The US government somehow pulled about $1.5 trillion out of their ass to provide relief to the stock market. It provided about a half hour of relief, and no one has any answers as to what's going to happen to people's careers and livelihoods. $1.5 trillion, by the way, is about how much it would cost to erase all of the student debt in the USA. So it's a pipe dream when millions of young people want relief, but when billionaires need a half hour to put their feet up, it's ready and waiting for them. There's another theorist named Ernest Mandel who had this idea about late-stage capitalism. He was born about 200 years after Adam Smith. He was most active in the 1970s, and he saw that capitalism had changed a lot in the last 2 centuries with the aftermath of the Industrial Revolution and 2 world wars. He took a lot of cues from Karl Marx, and he saw the capitalist system around him as dysfunctional. He saw a massive concentration of wealth and the privatization of essential services, meaning that a lot of labor goes to waste, a lot of economic capital is tied up in unnecessary opulence, and as a result, a lot of people do not get those those essential services. And nowadays the term late capitalism, which was not coined by Mandel but was popularized by him, is used as sort of a catch-all term for the injustices of capitalism. Like how under our current system, $1.5 trillion can be thrown into the sea but cannot be distributed among people who are dying without essential services. And one of the ways I think we can observe this in the current time of the coronavirus is with service workers. Look at the arena workers for various sports teams around North America, specifically the NBA and the NHL. For many of the arenas that these teams play in, the players themselves are shilling out to make sure that the people who make their careers possible still get an income. Now you may say these people are millionaires and they should be sharing their wealth to help people, and I would agree. But they are not the bosses of the arena staff. Their bosses are the owners of the arena, which are often the owners of the team. They are more wealthy than any of these players will ever be. They sign the players' paychecks. It's not the players' responsibility to make sure that their own co-workers don't starve. That would be on their bosses who depend on their employees to run their events and make their money. We're talking millionaires versus billionaires here, and the people with more resources, more often than not, are not the ones reaching out. However, more and more updates are coming in, and it seems as though a lot of teams are actually bowing to social pressures and are agreeing to support their workers. So congrats to them, I guess, for doing the bare minimum. At the end of the day, we're all in this together, and this pandemic thing is going to pass. Things are going to go back to normal, but it's going to take time, and there's going to be consequences. But what's important in times like these is collective spirit. In 20 or 30 years, when we look back on this as a historical event, how are we going to remember this, and how are you going to remember what you did about it? I think there are some positive lessons to be learned here. I think we're learning that we need healthcare systems that are proactive and are designed to help everyone. That means not cutting off healthcare to people who can't afford it or people who aren't from your part of the world, because public health affects literally everyone regardless of those factors. Along those lines, we have to start thinking more collectively. This has all made me realize we live on a planet full of people who face the same sorts of struggles. I think we need to stop asking questions like what's best for Canada or what's best for the middle class. We need to set our sights higher and start asking questions like what's going to help everyone moving forward. Sustainability is key here. We cannot just keep giving all of our money to billionaires because they are not going to help us, and things are going to get really ugly if we keep putting regular people in increasingly precarious circumstances decade by decade. And that means we have to let go of some of our preconceived notions. Let go of the idea that you have to go to the workplace physically every day to work. Let go of the idea that we should limit access to essential services. As we can see, that's not going to work. And I really think that that's what happens when you employ the sociological imagination. You start to think about perspectives outside your own, you start to think about the perspective of those who are disadvantaged or are being left behind, and you start to think, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing that to people. So that's going to be it for this video. I really appreciate you if you made it this far, because that was a lot of talking and information and not a whole lot of jokes. And I hope you found it engaging. Let me know what you thought about it. If people dig it, I'll start thinking about making some more of these kind of pseudo-educational, semi-serious videos. I don't know. I love diving back into the stuff that I learned in my degree, and the theorists I focus on today all happen to be old white men, so I would love to dive into a more diverse array of perspectives. Let me know what you think in the comments. What's your perspective on what this pandemic is doing to you and your communities? Okay, I will catch you later. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you want updates on when I'm going to upload to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, and share this one with your friends. That's in order. Check with your local and national government's health advisories on what to do in this situation. Follow those instructions and know that you're doing it in service of the greater good. Stay safe, isolate yourself, don't go to the club, stay in and watch all my videos on loop instead. Goodbye, you're the best, take care of yourself.